There are places where beauty and tragedy coexist so closely that one begins to bleed into the other, where the air feels heavier, not because of what is there, but because of what has been left behind. On Cheung Chau Island, life moves quietly. Fishing boats drift in and out with the tide. Neighbors greet each other along narrow streets. Incense burns steadily in small temples, as it has for generations. And just beyond the rhythm of everyday life, there is a place that feels slightly removed from it all. A cluster of seaside villas facing open water. They were built for rest, for escape, for people who wanted to leave the noise of the city behind, if only for a few days. But over time, Bela Vista Villa became known for something else entirely. Not because of a single story, but because the stories never seemed to stop.
Welcome to Edenfold.
Long before Bela Vista Villa gained its reputation, Cheung Chau itself carried a history shaped by belief. The island has always been deeply connected to spiritual traditions. Stories passed down through generations speak of wandering spirits, of unseen forces tied to the sea, and of times when the living believed they were not alone in their suffering. Centuries ago, the island was said to have been plagued by disease and misfortune. Some believed it was the work of restless entities. In response, villagers turned to Paktai, a Taoist deity associated with protection, to drive those forces away. Rituals were performed, offerings were made, and even now, those traditions remain, not as relics, but as something quietly woven into daily life. It's within that cultural backdrop that Bela Vista Villa was built, a seaside retreat, simple, practical, and unremarkable in design. Rows of modest units facing the ocean, close enough to hear the waves at night. For years, it served exactly the purpose it was meant for. Families visited, couples stayed. Nothing about it suggested what it would later become. Then came 1989. The details vary depending on who tells a story, but at its core, the account remains the same. A woman arrived at one of the villas with her young son. She was said to be dressed in red. What happened inside that room was never meant to be witnessed. By the time it was discovered, both of them were gone. In many cultures, tragedy is an ending. But in Chinese folklore, the way a person dies, and even what they wear, can shape what comes after. Red, often associated with celebration, takes on a very different meaning in death. It is said to bind anger, to preserve it. Some believe those who die in red do not leave easily. After that incident, the villa did not close. Life continued. Guests came and went, but slowly, something began to change. At first, it was subtle. A guest cutting their stay short without explanation. Someone mentioning they didn't sleep well, though they couldn't say why. Rooms that felt colder than others, even in the same building. Then the stories became more specific. People began describing a woman. Not clearly, never fully. Sometimes she was seen standing at the edge of a hallway, as though waiting. Sometimes near the beach at night, facing the water. And sometimes, more rarely, a child was said to be with her. These accounts were inconsistent in detail, but consistent in feeling. No one described panic. What they described was presence, as if they had stepped into a place where something else already existed. But it wasn't just sightings that shaped Bela Vista's reputation. It was what followed in the years after. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, a troubling pattern had begun to emerge. A number of individuals chose the villa as the place to end their lives, many using charcoal burning inside the rooms, a method that had begun appearing across Hong Kong during that time. Individually, each case could be explained, but collectively, they were harder to ignore. The numbers grew. Some reports suggested more than 20 incidents tied to the complex. Others claimed even more. And with each one, the villa's name spread further, not just as a place where something had happened, but as a place people were drawn to. That detail lingered with those who heard the stories, because it suggested something beyond coincidence. Locals began to avoid the area, especially after dark, not in fear in the dramatic sense, but in quiet discomfort, the kind that doesn't need to be explained. Visitors, however, were often drawn in for the opposite reason: curiosity. Urban explorers began documenting their visits. Small groups would enter the villas at night, filming empty corridors, open rooms, the stillness of the space. Most captured nothing, but occasionally there were accounts that stood out. A camera losing focus without reason, a sudden drop in temperature felt by multiple people at once, the sense of being watched, even when no one else was there. Some stayed the night. A few didn't make it until morning. There were also stories, harder to verify but repeated often enough to persist, of people behaving differently after spending time inside. Sudden mood changes, restlessness, a lingering feeling that followed them long after they left. Skeptics dismissed it. They pointed to the power of suggestion, the influence of reputation, the way a place can feel different when you already expect it to. And in many cases, that explanation made sense. But even among skeptics, there was one question that remained difficult to answer. Why did the pattern continue? Over time, the villa became something of a paradox. It was still in use, still standing, still functioning in a practical sense, but it carried a reputation that never fully faded. There were even proposals at one point to transform the area into a kind of themed attraction, leaning into its notoriety. The idea was quickly rejected. For many, the events tied to Bela Vista were not stories to be repurposed, but losses that deserved distance. Today, the villas remain, weathered but intact. Visitors still pass through the area. Some stay without incident, some leave with stories they struggle to explain, and some simply choose not to go at all. Bela Vista Villa is often described as one of Hong Kong's most haunted locations, but what makes it linger in people's minds isn't just the idea of a ghost. It's the combination of things that don't quite align. The history, the repetition, the way the stories never fully disappear, no matter how much time passes. It raises a question that doesn't have a clear answer. Do places become what we believe them to be? Or do certain places shape what we feel without us realizing it? Because whether the woman in red was ever truly seen, whether the presence people describe is real or imagined, there is still something about Bela Vista that remains difficult to dismiss. If you've ever heard about Bela Vista Villa, or if you've actually been to Cheung Chau, I'd really like to hear your thoughts. Do you think places can carry something after repeated tragedy? Or do you think it's the stories that give them that weight over time? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this narration, consider leaving a like. It genuinely helps the channel. And subscribe to Edenfold for more stories like this every week. And if there's a location you think I should cover next, tell me. Oh, and if you're not quite ready to end your dark tourism here, there's another location on screen right now. Until next time, stay curious.